Aloha and welcome to the G'day Sally Show. I'm Sally Squires, entertaining the world. And tonight I'm going to read another story from my book, Footsteps to Fairy Forest. You remember this was about a little girl who found a map down in the back woodshed, and on the map there were all these footsteps to Fairy Forest. So every day she goes to find another footstep, and when she finds the footstep, a fairy appears. Each time it's a different fairy. So tonight I'm reading you Footstep 5. The next morning I was woken up by heavy raindrops on the roof. I was disappointed at the rain, though I usually love watching the raindrops slide down the window panes as they fall. But today I was disappointed because I was planning on following my map again to Footstep 5 to see which fairy I would meet. I sent out a hopeful wish to the fairies that they would turn off the rain and send the sunshine to dry out the soggy ground in time for me to go on my trek to Footstep 5. And before I even had breakfast, I opened out my map on the floor of my bedroom to see which direction Footstep 5 was in and what signs I would have to look for. On the map, it showed that Footstep 5 was in an easterly direction, so I knew that if the rain stopped in time, I would be heading off east. Sadly, I went downstairs to have breakfast with my grandma, and together we watched the raindrops sliding down the window of the kitchen nook where the breakfast table is. Suddenly, a big burst of sunbeams started flowing through the window and landing right on top of my breakfast. I smiled so widely that my grandma wanted to know what I was smiling at. I told her I was happy that I would now be able to go outside and play, and soon after that the rain stopped entirely. Kissing my grandma on her soft, sweet-smelling cheek, I set out with my map, my compass, and my bucket and spade. By now I was feeling very confident about finding the next footstep, number 5, and as I walked, I started to feel excited about finding another fairy. I decided that today I would not go to any of the other footsteps on my way to Footstep 5, but to walk directly east. The path was completely new to me, and I was looking at all the trees and bushes and shrubs and flowers along the way. Suddenly, I began to worry that I'd missed the sign for Footstep 5. On the map, it looked like a little clear water drop, and I worried that if it was just an ordinary water drop, it would have disappeared by the time I got there, so I wasn't sure how I would find Footstep 5. Then I noticed a huge puddle just a short way away on my path. The trees and shrubs and bushes were very close to the puddle, so I could see that there was no way I could be able to go around the puddle. As I got to the edge of it, a huge bird appeared in the sky, and as I looked on amazed, it dived down into the puddle. It seemed to be down there for a long time before it came back up to the surface with a struggling, bright green frog in its mouth. I figured that it would be too deep for me to wade through. I was disappointed that I might not be able to get to Footstep 5, so I sat down on my upturned bucket and wondered what to do. Then I heard a noise behind me, and I turned around to see a big dog which nudged me in my back. Maybe he will take me across the puddle, I thought, and sure enough, this dog sat down beside me so that I could climb up on his back. I held my bucket high above my head as the dog waded through the water with me on his back. As we got to the other side of the puddle, the dog sat down again so that I could climb off. I started to walk along the path again, and when I turned around to thank the dog, he wasn't there. I hoped he would be there when I returned. As I walked, I kept my eyes on the ground, and suddenly I could see a silver glint a little way ahead of me. I thought the sunlight might be bouncing off something that had been left on the path, and as I got to it, I could see that there was a tiny little piece of silver, and guess what? It was in the shape of a drop of water. Excitedly, I put down my bucket and used my spade to smooth away the dirt. Sure enough, I found the stone that said Footstep 5. My heart started to thump as I waited and wondered which fairy I was to see today. I sat down on a rock to wait. It wasn't long until I found out. After a minute and a second, I could feel a breeze on my face, and something caught my eye. I saw a bright blue flash just near me. And you'll never believe it, but a bright blue fairy landed on my hand. It looked like there was water dripping out of her fingers. She said her name was Elizenistra, and that she was the fairy of the waters. And then I fell asleep. So now we're going to find out about the fairy called Elizenistra, who is the fairy of the waters. The fairy of the waters, Elizenistra, was spending her morning teaching the raindrops to glisten and to gleam. Then she was off to the fairy stream in Fairy Forest to show the stream water droplets how to shine and sparkle. It was also her duty to find any ponds that were low in water and to fill them up so that the ducks could swim and the birds would have clean water to drink. Achoo! Elizenistra sneezed as she watched the fish swim downstream to the annual fish gathering. Achoo! And again achoo! I must have mushroom dust up my nose, she thought. I shouldn't have stayed sitting on that mushroom while the wind was blowing so hard. Achoo! Elizenistra sneezed so hard that she blew herself into the waters of the stream. As she floated, she began to worry. Uh-oh, she thought, if my fairy wings get wet, I won't be able to fly. The current was running so fast that she was already floating out in the middle of the stream. And if my wings get so wet that I can't fly, I might lose some of my fairy magic. Elizenistra tried to use her wings, but they were too heavy. They are wet, she thought. Now what will I do? I am the fairy of the waters, but I'm meant to look after the waters so they'll be clean enough for the fish and frogs and other animals. I'm not meant to be in the waters getting my wings wet. As she floated down the stream, Elizenistra could see several fish come to the surface and gulp big mouthfuls of air as if they were hungry for air. What's wrong? She asked an old grandfather fish with silvery fins. Can't breathe down there, he said, puffing. Why not? Asked the fairy, forgetting about her wet wings. Not enough oxygen in the water, said the fish, breathing in deeply. What's the matter with the water? Asked Elizenistra, because as the fairy of the waters, if there was anything wrong with it, she was the very fairy to fix it. Too much smoke in the water, said the fish, taking a long breath and then diving down into the watery depths. What would cause smoke in the water, thought Elizenistra. I must find out and do something to cure the water so the fish can breathe again. But first I must get my wings dry so that I can fly along this stream and see where this smoke is coming from. Though she couldn't reach her magic wand, which was made of water sprites and droplets and which she carried in a special pouch on her back, and she couldn't reach her pouch of magic fairy dust, which she carried in a special pocket in her shoes, she could try a magic spell to dry out her wings. Unicorn universe unusual, wings waving wildly, dry and dust-free drastic, flying free and easy. At last her wings were dry enough for her to fly, so she could wing her way along the stream. She thought, what would make smoke in the water of this stream so that there's not enough oxygen for the fish to breathe? Just then she began to smell smoke. She flew around a bend in the stream and she could see smoke in the air. What was causing it, she wondered. She flew a little bit further, and then she could see flames leaping high out of the forest amongst the trees. That's terrible, she thought. Someone is burning down the trees of the forest, and it's causing smoke in the water, and the fish can't breathe. I must stop them at once. As she flew closer to the flames, Elizenistra could see a man with a big flamethrower. He was pointing it at the trees, and they would burst into flames. Suddenly, a family of brush-tailed possums came running down a tree trunk, just escaping having their beautiful bushy tails catch fire. They chattered as they rushed past Elizenistra. Our home is on fire. Then an old grandfather owl swept down majestically, almost colliding with Elizenistra. My nest is on fire, he growled. Got to do something, as he swept off to perch in a tree on the other side of the stream. This is terrible, thought Elizenistra, as a mother koala shepherded her 3 koala babies down the burning tree trunk. Our leaves are burning, dear fairy, we will go hungry. As the fairy's eyes started to smart with the sooty smoke, she was nearly knocked over by a gecko, riding on the back of a greater glider as they leapt from the tree. Ghastly grit, said the gecko as they shot past Elizenistra. Then a squirrel monkey leapt off a branch just by the fairy's head. Cough, cough, he choked. Can't catch a chill, horribly hot. Then a silky sloth slid slowly down the tree trunk and slipped into the stream, swimming swiftly over to the other side. "Smoky smog," he said as he sidled past the fairy. "This is terrible," said Elizenistra. "I must stop that man burning down the trees and polluting the water." Now, as the Fairy of the Waters, she has a special secret supply of water hidden in her fingertips. So Elizenistra flew over to where the man was. "Stop," she commanded him. "You can't burn down the trees of the forest. Stop it at once." "Says who?" said the man as he pointed his flamethrower at another tree. "I say so," said the fairy, and she aimed her fingers at the man and his flamethrower. Suddenly streams of water burst from her fingers, spraying all over him and the flamethrower, putting out the flames. The man was so shocked he fell to the ground. Elizenistra flew up close to his head and looked down at him. "If you ever try to burn down any of the forest trees again, I will douse you and your evil flame machine with water and put you out," she said. The man stomped off in his wet boots, carrying his dripping wet flame machine. And to make sure he would never come back, Elizenistra escorted him out of the forest. Then she flew around to every one of the trees that he'd been burning and put out all the fires by spraying them with water from her fairy fingers. Then Elizenistra sent out a message on a secret wishing cloud to Deldradonda, the fairy of the trees, who arrived almost immediately. Elizenistra told Deldradonda about the bad man and his evil flame machine and how he was burning the trees of the forest. Deldradonda was horrified. She said that she would create a special secret spell to protect all the trees of the forest in future so that no one would ever be able to burn them again. As Elizenistra floated above her and listened, Deldradonda sent out her special secret spell. "Unicorn, universe unusual, treating trees terrific, finally forever fine, growing great gracefully." Then Elizenistra, the fairy of the waters, went to work weaving her magic water cleaning spell to clean up all the water in the stream. She waved her fairy wand over the stream as she said her magic spell. "Unicorn, universe unusual, wishing waters wherever, coming clean carefully, finally forever fine." And then all the fish and water creatures were able to breathe again in their clean stream. You know, Hawaii is a microcosm of the world, with people here from all over the world. And Noa Noa Hawaii is a microcosm of the traditional arts of the world, with beautiful patterns from many countries. They've been in business for more than 40 years with wonderful Hawaii-designed batik clothing. Their hand-dyed and handmade clothes have patterns that are based on traditional kapa and tapa designs from Hawaii, Polynesia, Micronesia, Indonesia, even New Zealand and Africa. So check out the wonderful items that Noa Noa has on their website, www.noanoahawaii.com. So I'll be back next week, so bye for now.